In the last 10 years, 95% of the deaths linked to extremism in the U.S. were committed by the right wing, compared to only 4% by the left. What does that check your box? Does that sound right?
I thought communists killed millions, man. I thought that's like all we do is starve people and murder them when they don't think like we do.
Yeah. You dirty communists, you're always trying to, oppress people and burn them alive. And no, I didn't. The whole thing about the what was the protest with the tank?
Oh, the tank man. Yeah, Tiananmen Square.
Yeah, so that wasn't even real. Nobody really died. Is that true?
I mean, people definitely did die. There were definitely some soldiers who died. Soldiers were burned alive by some of the protesters. And I think maybe even some protesters had died when there were like violent clashes with them and the soldiers, but it was nothing like the Western typical conception of it, where it was some kind of massacre of peaceful protesters by a bunch of dystopian, authoritarian, communist soldiers or whatever. It's like, that is literally not what happened. And I advise people to go look up the actual video of the tank man, because everybody thinks he got run over or kidnapped by the secret police and was disappeared.
What it was,
but like, they backed up and they tried to get away from this guy, and he crawled up on the tank. He started trying to open the door of the tank, and some other people came and took him away and like said, look, you're going to get yourself in some real trouble here, like, come away with us. And they brought him away from the tank, and he was fine after that. Like, I don't know what happened to him. I'm sure he probably got tracked down and arrested, because you can't just do that shit in the middle of Tiananmen Square. But that's no more authoritarian than anything the U.S. does. It's actually like less authoritarian than the U.S. intentionally arresting, like kettling hundreds of protesters, arresting them for charges they know are not going to stick, just to get them out of the situation and the protest, which is like, China let that protest go on for days, or for like, at least it was like 12 or 24 hours, like overnight, and then into the next day at least. And that was after they were violently attacking soldiers. So it's like, it's just not even a comparison to the violent repression that the U.S. police forces actually enact on peaceful protesters, let alone some kind of like massacre the way people think it is.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was the guy in the video. They always talk about it, and they always think that the guy probably got smushed. But yeah, he actually crawls up on the tank and gives them hell. I saw a documentary about the reason why it started too, because they had this thing called Democracy Wall, and people started writing whatever they wanted on it, and pretty soon everything became super subversive or whatever, to whatever degree, and it wasn't cool. They couldn't have that particular kind of uprising or whatever. So this Chinese guy, I forget if he was talking to an American reporter from that era, and he said, you think you have this kind of that you could go into the newspaper and say whatever you wanted about whatever person? I don't think you have this kind of freedom in the United States.
Yeah.
So it was becoming like defamation on a wall that was leading to serious political unrest, and calls about, again, corruption. So anytime that people say there's corruption in the country, that's my like spider sense goes, okay, so what resources do we need out of that country then? Because that's ultimately the story. There's corruption in this country. Oh yeah, should we go overthrow them and install a democracy to help them? Wink, wink. Yeah, basically.
I mean, even the Chinese Communist Party admits that there was a lot of corruption in the 90s, in the 80s, like after the Deng Xiaoping era, when they opened up the markets to the West, when they tried to sort of capitalize in a lot of ways, when they privatized a lot of things, it's like that opened them up to a lot of capitalist corruption. And people still kind of assume that China is in the Deng Xiaoping era when he's been dead for a while. Like, Xi Jinping has been in office, has gone on the anti-corruption drive since 2013 or 14 when he got in. And that was like his main focus when he first got into office, was getting rid of the corruption and actually re-implementing a lot of communist measures in the government. And the West freaked the fuck out. Like, the fact that people freak out or forget how much the West collectively freaked out about China's anti-corruption drives and called Xi Jinping a totalitarian and said that he was just seizing power. Like, he was literally Joseph Stalin of the modern day. I'm not exaggerating. Like, if you look up the articles that the West wrote about Xi Jinping early on, like, it is unbelievable. And the fact that he's stuck around and he's been like a little more friendly to capitalists than I guess they expected, because they're able to make money in that country. Because that's the thing about it, is like, American and Western companies can go into China, but they still have to fork over a vast majority of their profits to the Chinese Communist Party. They just do it because there's such a huge market in China that it's still profitable for them. They don't want to miss out on a billion plus people, so they will pay heavy fines and taxes in order to operate in the Chinese market, but they will do it. And that's like all showing the success of socialism with Chinese characteristics.
Yeah. You said it the other day. You said, if this is communism, I'm all for it. Or if this is capitalism, I'm all for it, because this takes care of the basic needs of the people and also stops them from doing things like poisoning their own environment. You know, China famously got their air pollution when we grew up. You know, you remember seeing the smoggy skies of Shanghai and stuff like this. They have cut that down relatively fast in an alarming, impressive way. Also, all the other state-sponsored stuff that they get accomplished, why are we waggling our fingers at that? Like, just because they're shorter and have slantier eyes, that we're not all human and that we couldn't implement the same things? It doesn't make any sense. Oh, the culture's just different. I had people tell me that about European rail system. Oh, that would never work in America because we're Americans and we have a different culture. Mm-hmm. No, you're a human that needs to go from point A to point B. Don't give me that shit.
Nobody likes car culture. Even the people that claim they do.
Yeah. I mean, for how dangerous cars are and how much time I've already spent in them, I'm good. I spent my whole life in cars. I haven't had a car for a few years now, and I love it. It's fucking awesome. Yeah. So in the last 10 years, 95% of the deaths were linked to the right, not the left. So I guess I'll read a bit of this off. And keep in mind, this article takes data from the Anti-Defamation League, so we have to take it with a grain of salt, of course. They're also the ones probably encouraging genocide right now. But in recent years, the United States has witnessed a disturbing surge in extremist violence. We delve into the data provided in the Anti-Defamation League that sheds light on the disproportionate amount of right-wing extremism. Extremism, once relegated to the fringes, has now infiltrated the mainstream. The past decades has seen a dramatic increase in mass killings linked to extremist ideologies. The threefold increase in extremist killings between 1970s and the 2000s, the U.S. experienced 2 and 7 domestic extremism-related mass killings per decade. However, in the 2010s, this number skyrocketed to 21. The trend has persisted, with 5 domestic extremist mass killings occurring in 2021 and 2022 alone. Right-wing extremism dominates. All the data unequivocally points to right-wing extremism being the primary driver of all these violent acts and violent killings, mostly linked to right-wing extremism with notable emphasis on white supremacy. Your best friends, Mike, the white supremacists. When are we going to have a nice white supremacist boy on the show?
That guy, you hear from him at all? Is he still chickening out, or is he going to come on at some point?
We're trying to get a guy named Moist Kung Fu Panda or something like this on Instagram. He's got the American flag, and that's really all I know about him, but I was trying to get this chud. He believed that there was a genocide going on against white people in South Africa, where black people were killing them in record numbers. I, for the life of me, couldn't find it, but I learned that this is a common conspiracy theory among white nationalists, saying, we're under attack, there's too many of them.
That's what I meant to do earlier, was when I post on Instagram, I'll caption one of my posts, and I'll announce it here too. If anyone wants to come and make the case for the white genocide they claim is happening, email me at turnleftistpodcast@gmail.com, and I will either debunk that white genocide is happening or fully support it. Either one, whatever you like.
Yeah, depending on what's the deal. Yeah. Whatever, man. Just pay me some money. I'll do whatever you want.
Just come talk. Come hang out.
Yeah, come talk. I'm excited to have chuds of all various shapes and sizes on this show. I don't care, but I think I want to get to the heart of into the heart of darkness. I want to look my enemy in the whites of his eyes and ask him serious questions and say, what the fuck are you thinking? Like, what's going on in your head? What's your day like? What kind of food are you eating? How does a person, like I said last time, when somebody cuts you off in traffic, you have to speed up to see. I got to find out what an asshole looks like. But But so victims and casualties. The toll of human lives is staggering. Between 2010 and 2020, 164 people lost their lives in ideological, extreme-related mass killings. This figure surpasses any other decade except the 90s, when Oklahoma City bombing claimed 168 lives. The victims represent a diverse cross-section of society, from black shoppers in Buffalo to patrons of an LGBT nightclub in Colorado Springs. So maybe you remember some of these stories. You had the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting in 2018. A guy opened fire at the Tree of Life, killed 11 people. Charleston shooting, church shooting. White supremacists entered the church, killed 9 people. El Paso Walmart shooting 2019. Guy comes in, targeted Hispanic shoppers. 23 people were killed. The shooter expressed anti-immigrant sentiments and a desire to prevent a Hispanic invasion. Dude, and they're keying us up. You're telling me Fox News is a legal entity that's totally able to get these people so riled up that they're willing to kill, like a little black kid who accidentally rings the wrong door or comes up the wrong driveway. Some old 90-year-old guy comes out. He's totally indoctrinated from this news, and he's got his pistol in his hand and, shoots these kids dead. This is empire in decay, and a suburban populace so paranoid and trigger happy that if they don't kill somebody, they're going to end up killing themselves. Fucking pathetic. Kenosha shootings in 2020. Of course, everybody remembers that one. U.S. Capitol insurrection. So just huge amounts of mass shootings. Everybody knows that these right-wing guys, they love the guns more than us. We like music mostly. We like poontang. We like being a good neighbor. Things like that. They're into killing.
We like humanity. They like to hate.
We like to think. They like to make knee-jerk assumptions about the world they live in. We like to try to solve things with diplomacy and peace. They tend to root for all-out fear-based, annihilation of everyone. Now, not to say liberals are also war-hungry, but honestly, if there's any chuds watching, your liberals are in the tank with you guys. Like, we're not taking liberals. We're leftists. You take the liberals. They're just as warmongery and idiotic as you. Am I off base here, Mike?
No, I mean, you're 100% right. It's like I made a video and I put it on TikTok and then I took it down immediately because I was like, this is going to get me some hate. But it was, the caption was liberals saying, oh no, if Trump gets back in office, the chuds are going to be hunting us in the streets. And then the video was Trump saying, I'm going to come. And it's like leftists saying that because like we would help them. Like unironically, if like the far right started hunting like supporters of Israel and like the Biden voters and all like the liberals, like the people who like put Black Lives Matter signs on their lawn but then shoo away a homeless person if they see them, it's like those people who like profess to be progressives but are obviously just basing all of their politics and ideology on their own personal comfort. It's like when the Trump supporters go and hunt those people down, the leftists would be hunting them with them because they would be taking all their rental properties and all their businesses. Like that's what the leftists would want to do. And the right just wants to hurt anybody that don't like them. So I just think that the whole collapse of American society is not going to go down the way people think it is. Like, first and foremost, they are going to lose the comfort that they're holding on to, and that is preventing them from embracing any kind of human politics now. It's like, that's literally the entire liberal gambit. It's like, I think I'm going to be able to maintain this comfort. Therefore, anything that would threaten that is too far left and too radical and scary for me. So I'm not going to embrace it now when I could. I will wait until the boots are at my door and it's too late, and then I will want to be a leftist, and it's not going to work out that way.
Yeah, it's pathetic. It's pathetic how easy it is to manipulate these people, and marketing and governments. We all know this, but we still believe that we're savvy, smart, sophisticated, that we know what's going on all the time. But no, we are not. I'm sorry to say, we're just not smart enough to defend ourselves against coercive actors. I don't know. But you're right. I don't know. But the right especially has really hard time discerning between right and wrong. And in fact, and the transgender thing, man, they're so upset. So I posted this thing and I said, seed oils, there's this big hubbub about seed oils being toxic or whatever. Again, this is just more bullshit. The scientific consensus I've seen people go through it. I've gone through it myself. It's fine. It doesn't increase any inflammatory markers. It's not toxic. It's not poisoned. It doesn't do anything. There's no scientific evidence that says this. And people still believe it. And I said, look, Harvard School of Medicine did a study. They say it's fine. And then somebody in the comments says, is this the same Harvard school that says that men can menstruate? And I go and look this up. I go, okay, well, tell me that they think men can menstruate. So Harvard Medical School put tampons in the gender-neutral bathrooms and said they're not for women, they're for menstruators, okay? That's all they did. They were just trying to be inclusive of this new paradigm. And now the Harvard School of Medicine is no longer trustworthy, man. They're in on the whole thing. That drives me crazy. That really drives me crazy.
It's such a silly thing that they do too. Like that whole what is a woman game that they play. It's like that's their whole thing. Is they're just trying to whittle down on gender ideology, which is they have an ideology. Like gender is a social construct. It's a made up thing. And so yeah, you can say men can menstruate, men can get pregnant, women can have beards or whatever, because it doesn't matter what a man or woman is, because it's a made up category. You can talk about sex differences, you can talk about biological differences, but even those cross a lot of the boundaries between what people would consider men or women. And the easiest way I can explain it is before people knew what trans people were colloquially, before it was a big pop culture thing here in the US, just go back to the 60s or 70s when, the good old days when all these people felt comfortable being the bigots that they feel like they have to hide now. It's you could have always met someone that you couldn't tell whether they were a man or a woman, right? Or you could have met someone and thought they were a woman or a man, and then they have a really deep voice or something and you find out it's a woman. It's just there were always lesbians, and they were just they just had to act like men a lot because they weren't so socially accepted as they are now, unfortunately. But it's I always think of remember Large Marge from the Pee Wee Herman movie? It's I assume that woman was probably a big dyke, right? So there was always this thing, and there was always the situation that you might encounter where you would misgender someone, and then what did you do in that case? You just said, oh, I'm sorry, my bad, and then you just corrected yourself. And then somewhere in the 2000s, when it became a culture war issue, people lost the ability to just make that quick correction and then keep it in their minds. And it's you could have always done that, people always were doing that, but now you made it a wedge issue, and it's because you hate gay people, because you are a bigot. You're going to take this stand where you can't just change the pronouns that you refer to someone by. It's go fuck yourself. You're just being a dick.
Yeah. I think I cannot imagine why it's so hard to just accept people that are human. Regardless of what they choose to do, I only judge people on two characteristics, and that if you're an asshole or if you're stupid, or and if you're an asshole, that means if you're dishonest or you're violent or you're just disagreeable, whatever, then I don't like you. And if you're but if you smell bad, or if you're wearing a funny hat, or if you want to dress up like a woman, see, sexuality and gender both exist on a spectrum. There are people who have a wide array of how they see themselves. I watch Lifetime movies. The marketing and the data agencies think I'm a fucking 50-year-old lesbian because of my things that I like. Yeah. And so on that spectrum, I'm a little bit not what anybody would call, oh, that's not normal. I am weird. I'm gender fluid, or whatever you would call it. I'm easygoing. I don't give a fuck. But at the end of the day, if you have a pulse, then you should have equal rights, and you should just be treated fairly, and blah, blah, blah. And I hate to have to explain that to somebody as if these fucking people didn't grow up with any manners.
Yeah.
It's sort of amazing. It never bothered me. In fact, I blew a couple trannies in my days in San Francisco. Wonderful, wonderful people. So somebody in the comments says those things aren't the same. Well, yeah, no. I love it when people say that. Yeah, no. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm convinced. Yeah, no. Great argument, bro. I mean,
well, tell me what you think. Those things aren't the same. Explain yourself, please. We're not here to try to.
while they're typing the response, hopefully, so much of this is so obviously rooted in male insecurity, like the toxic masculinity aspect. Because going back to what I was saying about like Large Marge a second ago, like one of my favorite videos on YouTube is a woman who explains how to use what they call a ticking stick. And it's like a thing for measuring odd shapes when you're doing some kind of construction project. And if you look it up on YouTube, you'll see this woman explain how to use a ticking stick really simply and easily. It's like a very cool thing to learn. But this woman is like dressed in what you would typically consider like men's clothing. Like she just looks like a construction dude like in their 50s. And it's like, that doesn't threaten men. Because men are never afraid they're going to be accidentally attracted to a woman who looks like kind of butch, right? But they are very threatened by like men who present as women because they think they might be accidentally attracted to them, and that says something about their own sexuality. And that's exactly that. Yeah. It gives away the entire culture war. The fact that men have this hatred, and like even women, like conservative men and women both, are threatened by the idea of men adopting femininity in a way that they feel threatening because they're going to be attracted to them, or they feel like it's going to invade their spaces as women, which has also never been a real threat in any way, but they use it as a cudgel to beat these trans people into submission. And again, it's so much about the feminine presenting people because it's rooted in their sexualization and objectification of these people as objects for like, they literally can't think of trans people as just people who exist like them without thinking that like, if like a drag queen is reading to their kids, it has to be sexual. It's like, no, it's not sexual at all. Like, and one of the things that we'll constantly ask is like, why don't they go and read to people in old folks homes and retirement centers? It's like, they do that. You just don't care. Like, you're literally not paying attention to that because it's not part of your fake conspiracy narrative that you have to uphold.
I think it's because conservative people are like these deeply like primitive kind of people go, everything that they come across in their life, they just think first, should I fuck it? They think, should I kill it? Should I fuck it? Or should I eat it? These are the three things that they ask themselves. They go along and they go, a toaster oven? Should I fuck it? Should I eat it? Should I?